Hi everyone, my name is Robin Lewis, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I made this TV cabinet. The majority of this is made out of 90mm external grade structural plywood. My neighbor's building a new house and these are all the leftovers from when they were building the subfloor. The sheets were all random sizes and shapes, so the first job was to cut them up into manageable pieces. For all the straight cuts, I used this jig made out of MDF. It's just a straight edge that you can run the circular saw against. I've got a couple of these lying around the shop. It's probably not 100% accurate, but so far they've worked out pretty well as a replacement to a table saw. For all the joins, I used Rebates with glue and screws. This was partly for strength, but mostly just to help with alignment. This plywood wasn't in the greatest condition when I got it. It was quite warped and twisted, most likely because it was structural plywood. So these rebates really just help to pull everything flat when you join the pieces together. At this stage, I'd done the two side panels with top, middle, and bottom rebates. The next job was to cut rebates into the top shelf, middle shelf, and bottom shelf. Between the middle and top shelf, I added this support piece just to give some extra strength for where the TV is going to sit, because that's going to be the majority of the weight. I set this piece back to break up the vertical center divider. There's already going to be one below it where the drawers attach, and I didn't want this TV unit to just look like boxes glued together. Then I could do a dry fit just to check if there were any issues up till this point. I'm glad I did, because there was one with the wires running down the back. As it stands, my set-top box is going to have no space for those wires to run behind the cabinet because it's going to be right up against the wall. So what I need to do is drill out some notches where the cables can run through. So I reckon I'll probably just use a hole saw to make some small holes, a couple on either side, and that can be where the cables run, and then the middle shelf can still sit flush against the wall. Before I start the glue up, I've got to think about how I'm going to do these two center dividers, this one and the one below. They're directly on top of each other, so while I can go along and screw down into this one, when it comes to this top center divider, there's no way I can screw up. So the way I'm going to get around this is to first remove this bottom center divider. Then I can drill holes up from the bottom into this top center divider for dowel holes. Won't attach it though. Then I can remove this, come back, glue and screw down into this bottom center divider. These dowel holes will be there waiting. Then I can come back, put the dowels into this top center divider and glue it into place. Then I could get onto painting, and the first job was to give it a coat of primer, wait for that to dry, and then add the low sheen white. I purposely kept the top off while I painted the cabinet in the hopes that I'd be able to get a better finish because I had better access. If I was to do this again though, I would probably just join everything and do all the painting in one go. The problem with doing it in parts is that once you join the pieces together, it looks good if you give it another coat. So you end up doing so many touch-ups and redos that it would have just made more sense if you had just done all the painting in one go at the end. And in reality, I don't think having that extra access improved the finish that much. So I've hit a bit of a snag on this project. This mango wood that I was going to use and had planned to use for ages isn't properly dry yet. So it's sitting anywhere between 12 and 16% moisture content, which it's just a little bit too high. If it was closer to the 10 to 12, while still high, I'd work with it, but it's just a little bit too high. Added to that, this particular board is very twisted. By the time I flatten this, I'm going to lose a fair bit of material, probably down to the tune of around 15, maybe 20 mil. With these three pieces together, I make up the 600 mil wide panel that I need. So if I pull this one out, it's not going to work. So the reality, I think, is that I'm just not going to be able to use this mango for this project. And I really hate that I'm going to say this, but I think this is probably the option I'm going to go for. just go to the hardware store and buy one of those pre-made panels. I feel like I'm cheating, but I think I just need to go and buy one of those pre-made panels and then I can continue. And this is what I was referring to. This is a finger jointed oak panel that I bought from my big box store. It went for $60, which is a bit expensive, but I went for this one because I particularly wanted this color. So there's not really too much that I need to do to this panel. Probably sand up to 320 grit, it's close to it already, and then some water-based polyurethane, and that'll be it. So this is the first panel that I've cut, and this is going to be the bottom of the drawer. And the way I worked this out was to take that measurement plus the two 90mm sides, and then the drawer runners, and that's how wide I need this to be. Now you can see these drawer runners aren't fitting in. I've probably got about 2, maybe 3mm to cut off. That's fine, I wasn't expecting to get it cut perfect on the first time. Now I can take it back and using the saw just finely cut off enough until it's a good fit. I have finished cutting all of the bits for the drawers. That's the bottoms, the front, back and side panels. I've sanded all of them. Well, I've sanded the inside because it's going to be hard to get to that later. So the next step is to start putting the drawers together with glue and screws. Alright, 3 more to go. Next up with the drawer slides. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because there are hundreds of videos out there on YouTube explaining the best way. All I'll say is that the method I used was to attach the outer drawer slides to the cabinets first, then I'd attach the inside of the drawer slide to the bottom of the drawer. That way I didn't have to worry too much about the height of the drawer slides in relation to the cabinet. I could just attach them and everything worked. The drawer fronts were the same oak as the top, but these were just smaller panels. I started by removing all of the drawers, then I could use the inside cavity as a rough idea of what I needed to cut the panel down to. Once I had the panel fitting nicely in place in that cavity, I could mark out where I wanted the drawers to separate. This was roughly in the center. I used the curve of the circular saw as the spacing between the drawers, and then I matched that all the way around each of them. The vertical dividers weren't perfectly square, so I needed to cut a very minor angle onto some of these drawers. So to do that, I used a small piece of card, and that would just bump the drawer out enough to give it a slight angle. So it's all done, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Soft close, absolutely the way to go. There's something so flash and cool about soft close. I mean, obviously there's the practical side of it. You're not going to damage the drawers slamming them closed, but it just seems so much more professional putting them in. And I guess when you consider the price, yes, they are a little bit more expensive, but in my case, I think overall we're talking about $20 to go from just the normal closing drawer slides to the soft close. The top has been screwed in from the underneath. I used this attachment for my drills, a 90-degree bend attachment. It cost quite a bit of money when I bought it originally, but it's been one of those things that has been invaluable, because when you need to get into a tight space like this to drill, there's only one tool that will work. And spending that little extra money on a good tool that's lasted, for a while and does the job well, absolutely money well spent. Right from the beginning, my 6-month-old daughter was kept in mind with this project. So that's why I have that big cavity at the back. That's to hold all the wires and keep them away from little fingers. And a lot of the design choices have been around keeping her safe. These handles have a nice 45-degree chamfer on the edge. I really like these handles, and I almost didn't go with them because they are quite harsh. But because of this chamfered edge, I think it should be okay. The other thing is that this is incredibly heavy. I won't be able to move this by myself. So in terms of her pulling up on these and climbing up, she's never going to tip this thing over, and it's never going to slide with her weight pushing against it. So with that in mind, I've got family coming around tomorrow to give me a hand getting this up the steps, because this thing just weighs a ton. But there's something nice about a piece of furniture weighing a lot. It's got a sense of quality. Obviously you've got to get it into place, which is always a bit tricky, but once it's there, it feels like it really holds and owns its space. So this is the first of 2 builds that are going to go in this area. The next one is going to be on that side where I have my original coffee table. That was the first woodworking project I ever did. For that space, it's probably going to be a toy box that doubles as bench seating, and it's going to be made in the same style as this, using the same white paint and the same oak top. I've got a couple of commissions on the go at the moment, so I've had to put that on hold, but that will be a future build. So thank you everyone for watching. My name is Robin Lewis, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, give it a thumbs down. And if you enjoy this type of content, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon.